Hi there and welcome. This is ABC and 123 Early Learning Made Easy. I'm Pam Powers. I'm the founder of Physical Powers, and I'm here with my good friend, Laurie Gumbosh, who has ABCs of Movement. Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Good. Hi, everybody, and welcome.
Laurie's going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do with you for the next 45 minutes.
Thank you, Pam. Our objectives are by the end of this session, you'll be able to apply games and activities in your classroom that promote early literacy and foundational math skills. And also, you'll be able to utilize multi-sensory materials that engage the whole child during virtual or in-person instruction.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Laurie to get us started.
All right. So the first activity and first idea that I'm going to share with you is called the ABCs of movement. I actually created the ABCs of movement a few years back as a way to get kids moving and learning at the same time. I fully believe that kids are kinesthetic learners and they learn best through movement. So that's how I created the ABCs of movement. They're 26 developmentally appropriate movement cards from A to Z that help kids learn. The fronts of each card have an uppercase and lowercase letter with stroke marks, a real child, a picture of a real child doing the movement, and what the movement is. I selected real children in this because I am a school-based physical therapist and I work with children preschool all the way through and with children with special needs. And I created this product basically for children preschool, kindergarten, first grade, 3 to about 8 years of age, but I have used them with children with special needs all the way up to like third grade. So I just wanted to introduce a little bit about the cards. The fronts of the cards, like I said, have real pictures. Children with autism are very visual learners, so I wanted real pictures of real children in the cards. So the fronts of the cards are what you see on the screen, and then the next to it is the backs of the cards. The backs of the cards have all of the information for the adult who's helping the child. Mind you, you don't have to do any of the stuff on the back of the cards. You can just use the fronts of the cards in your lesson plans. But if you want to enhance your lesson a little bit, feel free to use the backs of the cards. The first one says, say, a, and that's phonological awareness. Children actually hear the sound that represents the letter before they learn the alphabet letter. Trace the A in the air, and that's for kinesthetic learners. So when children do that, they get their pointer finger out, they start at the top, they extend their arm, and they make the uppercase letter. And when I teach that, I'm not that concerned that kids are like having their arm perfectly straight and they're starting. I want them to isolate their pointer finger and recognize that uppercase letters start at the top and go down. There's a rhyming sentence and an alliteration sentence to reinforce each of the alphabet letters. There are directions on how to form the alligator mouth, so how to do each of the movement. There are modifications on every single card for children with special needs. And then the last section says it's a great activity for bilateral coordination. I took a lot of time when I came up with the cards, was very mindful of foundational movements that children need to be successful in school. Bilateral coordination is one of them, crossing the midline, strength, balance, and motor planning. So I incorporated a lot of those foundational skills in these cards. So just for an example of some of the ways that I use the ABCs of movement cards, you can use them in, like I said, virtual or in-person instruction. I kind of did something extra. I created a beach ball game that I wanted to share with you real quick. So I got a beach ball and I put the ABCs of movement on the beach ball, the letters. And if we're in virtual instruction, I actually toss the ball at my camera and have the children identify what letter it is and what movement it is if they know that. So for example, I'm going to toss this ball to you. Catch. All right. So what is that? They don't know the letter. That's fine. If they don't know what it is, that's fine. They can identify the color. It's yellow, and that is a P. That's an uppercase and a lowercase p, and P is for penguin waddle. So then what we do is I find the letter P card, and there's penguin waddle, and we all waddle around our area like penguins. If we did it with virtual instruction, you could pause, you could silence everybody, put everyone on mute, and each child would take a turn identifying the whatever letter it was that they caught. If you were doing it virtually, and if they all had balls, they could actually be catching their beach balls themselves. Or if you're in-person instruction, we're in a big circle and you're tossing the ball. A little tip is deflate the beach ball a little bit, because young children have a hard time sometimes catching. So that's just a tip, to deflate the ball so it's not going flying over to the one side. Pam, if you could advance the next slide, please. So the ABCs of movement cards are available in the activity plan, is available at openphysed.org. If you haven't heard of openphysed.org, oh, this is a great resource for early childhood, kindergarten, all the way up to high school. There is a section called movement exploration for early childhood, mainly preschool, but you could use it with kindergartners as well. The ABCs of movement has 6 different movement activities in this module, and I'm going to go over just a few of them. Pam, if you could advance the next slide. The first one that we're going to talk about is yoga ABCs. So this is the quick reference. This is the reference card, the activity card. If you haven't seen it, this Zoom picture doesn't do it any justice, but basically yoga ABCs uses the ABCs of movement cards, and the activity helps children practice attentive breathing and mindfulness. So the first letter is the letter A, right? So instead of alligator marching, we're going to do alligator breathing. So this is a deep breathing technique. So we're going to extend our arms out. So if you all want to extend your arms out, and we're going to take a deep breath in. So inhale and then exhale. Inhale and exhale. And you can do it slower. If you can do it slower to try to get a lot more deep breathing. So A is for alligator march usually, but for yoga, it's alligator breathing. B is for bear crawl normally, but we're going to do a bear pose. And the bear pose looks an awful lot like the downward facing dog in yoga. The yoga C is for crab walk. Well, instead of crab walking, we will just do the crab pose. So you get into the crab position and you try to get your belly up towards the ceiling, and then it looks a whole lot like the table pose in yoga. And basically you're holding it, with young children, you can hold it for 10 seconds, maybe count to 10 and then sit your bottoms back down. This crab pose is a great strengthening pose for children. And then the last one is D is for not duck walk, but duck pose. And that looks an awfully lot like a squat, like a chair pose. So those are just, I know you probably do a lot of yoga in your classes, and this is just another way to use your ABCs of movement cards. They were definitely intended for moving, so we're going to go over a few different movement activities. Another one in the early childhood module is called obstacle course, using the ABCs of movement. Now, this is just a recommendation, especially even with yoga ABCs. You can use any of the cards you want during any of these activities. But in this one, we're going to make an obstacle course. So you could make an obstacle course in your classroom, in your gym, in your facility, or you could do it virtually, and you could pretend that you're doing an obstacle course around the area. So the first one that everyone would do is this letter right here, which is M. That's right. So we would all march. So we're marching around our area, and then we're going from one area to another if we're doing it in person. If not, we're just marching around. And again, you could do all the information on the backs if you want. You don't have to. You could just march. And then after a while, you can say, okay, the next one we're going to do is this one right here. And that's O. O is for ostrich walk. So then we would all walk around like ostriches in our area. The next one we would do is V is for Viking Row. And I love this one and the next one because Viking Row, you have your hands together like this and you're rowing your boat. And if you are like me, I might start singing a chorus of row, row, row your boat when we're moving around our area, and that's okay. But what we're really doing is we're crossing the midline every time we row our boat. The midline is an imaginary line that goes right down the middle and it cuts us into left and right sides. You have to be able to cross the midline when you're reading because your eyes go from left to right. And you also have to be able to cross the midline when you're writing. So even though we're rowing our boats, the children think that's a really fun activity. They're really working on those foundational developmental skills. And then another one that we can do is E is for elephant stomp, similar to Viking row, but we have our hands together and we're stomping really hard. We're stomping around our area. And that gives us a lot of proprioceptive input down our legs and through our feet that we love to do. We love proprioceptive input. So that's another one of the activities through openphysed.org. Another one that you could do, and again, with these activities, the open modules are made to be a guide. You can, if you're doing these activities, you can make it whatever you want. You can use whatever cards you want. You can do it quite a few different ways. Just be creative with it. The next one that I wanted to share is called Follow the Leader. And follow the leader, you know, if you know preschoolers like I know preschoolers, they love to lead. They want to be the leader. So what I usually do is I take a few of the cards and I fan them out either on the ground or just in front of them. And everyone takes a turn to be the leader. Now, if we were doing it virtually, I would have to pull the card out. Everyone will be muted except maybe the one child who's going to be the leader. And then they would pull out, I would pull out a card and they would identify the letter if they can. And this is the letter Q, and Q is for quick walk, not running, quick walk. And so then we would pretend that they're the leader and we're quick walking around our area. If we were doing it in a classroom setting, we would all be quick walking behind whoever picked the card. That way they can be the leader. And as long as everyone gets a chance to be the leader, it's a great, great activity for everyone. If you run out of time and not everyone's the leader, you'll have to assign someone else be the leader, that person be the leader next time. So there's a few different cards. There's another one. This is actually run. And if you are at home or if you are in a school setting, depending on where you're at, you can run in place. You don't necessarily have to run around your area, but then you can challenge children to run and stay in a line and do the running by following the leader. Another one of the cards, these, as you can see, are really good foundational gross motor skills, is skip. S is for skip. Now listen to the stuff on the back of the card. Grab a chip and skip to the ship. Did you hear those rhyming words? And then the alliteration is 7 sailors skip silently on Saturdays and Sundays. Did you hear all those words? And then if you want, you can challenge the children. What other words start with the S sound? And they might say, you know, Stephen or Stephanie or Stefan, or they might say, you know, whatever. And you can try to get that early literacy coming out that way as well. So those are 3 of just the 6 activities in openphysed.org. I've also come up with another activity, and it's called ABC Dice Game. Let me share that with you. What you'll need is a set of dice, and I really love these color-coded dice. Here's my plug. These are from US Games, but anyway, they're color-coded dice. You can use whatever dice you want. So I have a set of 5 dice, and then I created a dice game. So this is going to lead into a little bit of math as well as early literacy, because so the way you do the ABC dice game is you have different colored dice. Each child says what color they want. So like, let's say we're doing it virtually and Emmanuel chooses yellow. Okay. So Emmanuel is going to roll the dice and then we're going to see what it lands on. So he's going to roll the dice. All right. He rolled this. Okay. So then he has to count the dots, right? So that's a 4. So then we have to graft it. So we go yellow and we go 4 and we come down here and it's that letter right there. What letter is it? It's the letter K. So then we find our ABCs of movement card. That is the letter K. And K is for kangaroo jump. So then we all get our little kangaroo arms out and we all jump like kangaroos around our area. Now, if kangaroo jumping is too difficult, you can also try to kangaroo walk or kangaroo march. It's the same thing with all of these activities. Alligator marching, for example, with the letter A. Some children have a hard time coordinating their arms opening and closing and marching with their feet. It's a really hard motor thing for some younger children, especially. So sometimes we just do the alligator up and down with the alligator marching. We just do the arms first. And then we might march in place. So we're not really moving. We're just standing on our spots and marching in place. And then once we get that down, then we can alligator march around our learning area. So that's just a little tip. You can change it up. You can make it your own, whatever you think is appropriate for your setting. So now I think I'm going to turn it over to Pam.
All right, Laurie, that was fabulous. Oh my gosh, so many great ideas. So we're going to switch over to numbers. Laurie talked to you all about letters. I'm going to talk to you about something called Power Deck cards first. And similar to Laurie, I saw a need. And so I created these cards that have 1 through 10, and there's 6 different colors. So they match up with most of the equipment that you purchase. That's orange, yellow, red, green, blue, purple. I think I said all those colors right there. But so what I've done is I've created a number of games with them, and I'm going to share some of them with you that I feel would work really well if you're virtual, but also if you're in person also. So the first one I created is called the Color Dance. And so with Color Dance, what we're going to do is go ahead and set up on the floor, very similar to the picture, an X. You can use tape on the floor. They can use 2 pieces of string. I happen to have used painter's tape because you can pick it up or take it off really easily so that it doesn't leave any marks on the floor, whether the kids are at home or whether they're at school. And what I did is I went ahead and I selected 4 different cards and put them down and marked them on the floor with color. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've done back here. So on the floor, up at the front, I've got the color purple, I've got blue, I have orange in the back, and then I have red over here. So I set up my 4 colors. Now, we can do this a lot of different ways. The most simplistic to start out with is to tell the kids to get a colored object from home and put the blue one up in the front towards their right hand. Put the orange object back by their right foot, put the purple object up at their left hand, and put the red object back by their red foot. Now, I mentioned there are 6 colors, and there's 6 different colored cards. And so as the instructor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing a card color, And that will tell the kids where they're going to touch first. So the first one is orange. That means I would touch my right foot to the back and then come back to the center. My next one that I hold up for them is red. So I would tell them touch red. That means they're going to touch the red back left and bring their feet together to the center each time. Now, so because I've already done two, I'm going to go back and we're going to review. So we did right back orange, left back red. That's the start of our pattern. The next one says blue. So that means I'm going to touch to the front with my right. So now I want to go back and we're building on the pattern each time. Back with our right, back with our left, front with our right. Last one is orange, and I'm going to go right again there. So if I do a pattern of 4, it means I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I probably want to have them repeat that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to keep repeating that over and over again. Now at this point, what I would do is I would add some music. So let's try this with some music. All right. All right. Here we go. Ready? 5, 6, 7, go. Back, back, front, back again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Stop right there. All right. So now that we've figured out that pattern, and we've done that, what we'd want to do is build on that pattern or do a brand new one. So in our next 4, we're going to do purple. So purple would be up to the front. Our next one is blue, and blue is over here to the front. And then we have yellow, but we don't have yellow in a square. So if we get one of our colors that we haven't put in our square, we jump. So now we have front, front, jump, and then our last one will be a back touch, back. So we'll try that again. We have front, front, jump, back, front, front, back, jump. The next step to what we would do is we would put that all together and we could create an 8. So let's talk about all the different ways we could do that if we were doing it with our kiddos. We could have them create their own patterns, or in their square, have them decide where they want red, where they want orange, where they want yellow and blue, whatever color, and then they create their own pattern and their own dance. The nice thing about it, especially if you let them do their own thing with it, is that they have complete control over the dance and how they're doing it, and nobody's is going to look exactly alike. So they don't have to worry so much about, as my friend from Groove says, they can't get it wrong. And so that's what I love about it. There's all sorts of different ways you could do that. You could also have them take sheets of paper and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on them, and have them decide what color each one was, and have them create the dance and hold up numbers at home. When you're at school, these cards come in a set of 66. So if each student has 4 cards, you've got quite a few kiddos that could have their very own set of 4, along with you calling out or having them decide the pattern and tell everybody else. So you could have one student at a time pick 4 colors and create the dance. Everybody else their dances would all look different because they have their colors set however they want them to look in their squares. So lots of different options about ways you can have the students do this together. All right. So with the idea at home, I've put out some objects. One thing I've done with kiddos at home is I've said, all right, when I say go, I want you to go find me 6 different objects. They could be anything you want that are 6 different colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Okay. And that's a way to do it if they don't have cards at home. But they could also use sheets of colored paper, or they could use something else that's a colored object, as long as it's something that if they kind of step on it or touch it, it's not going to cause them to fall down or get hurt. Pieces of clothing that are a bright color also is another way. They could put a towel, they could put a sock, they could do a number of different things to use for color dance. So the next one is color touch. And Laurie mentioned Open Phys Ed earlier. And also, I've taken a number of the games and activities on Open, and I've adapted them to things that you could do using the Power Deck cards with the color. So very similar to what we just did with putting them over here is if you have students at home, you can hold up a color and say, I want you to go touch this number of red items. Go. Now, if they're at home, it may be harder for them to find that many red items. But what you can do is say, I want you to go find something that is this color and touch it. So I would send them off, looking around their room, touch something that color, and then come back to the screen, and I know they're ready to go again. Then the next one I hold up, same thing again. If we're doing this at school, it's really fun to put out a number of rubber poly spots on the floor, right? And then what I've done with the cards is they're all laying on the floor with the P side up. Each student, and they're laying around scattered, they turn over a card to see, they turn it back face down, so the P is facing up, and then they go to touch that many of blue objects before they come back to do another. So it's a really never-ending game. There's a number of times that they can go do it and come back and so forth. So color touch can be used a number of different ways in different settings, either at home or at school. You can also do it and also color dance if you have some students who are tuning in from home while you have others that are actually in class. So the next one I want to talk about is something newer. I created last year something called Empower Cards. And so how these came about was I asked some friends to tell me the nicest thing that someone had ever said to them. And so it has a social emotional learning piece to it. And how I've used this with kids is each card has a positive saying on it. So this first one on the front says, a day spent with you is my favorite day. You're making a difference. And these are big giant postcards that on the back side, you can put a stamp on and you can actually mail. I've used these in group settings where as everybody came in, I gave them a card of their own, and then the music played. And as the music is playing, everybody is wandering in and out of each other, walking by other people. And as music stops, you face somebody else and you read your card to them. So this one says there's ordinary and then there is you. And the person facing me reads me their card that says, you're the most perfect you there is. And once we've read each other's card to each other, we hand our partner the other card. We just read them. And then we walk and keep going and moving to the music. Keep doing this several times over, and people get a number of different positive things said to them within 5 minutes. The beauty of it is that we're helping kids to understand how to pay somebody a compliment, nice things to say, And all 25 are all things about you personally, has nothing to do with outward appearance or looks. And so it's really important for kiddos to understand that there's much more to us that's something inside of us rather than outward appearance. I also made them in these little tiny cards that are the size of a business card, and they're the same 25 sayings on each card. But these work really well also to be able to use in class if you wanted to use those as well. Hand each one a card and then have them switch and go around. Teacher friends of mine over the last year have sent these postcards to students on special occasions, or maybe they sent them to them at the end of a grading period. One of my friends sent one to each of her graduating seniors that she was teaching. And a number of them commented about how special it made them feel, and that the message really meant something. It also is a nice little reminder to just be able to put up and set somewhere. I've also used the smaller ones when I've just been out and about and I interact with somebody. They're really nice, especially if you don't really know somebody and you can just hand them a card. So, two different sizes, but two different ways and unique ways that people have used them. The other thing about them also is that you can laminate them if you wanted to use over and over again in your class. Or maybe you have an event where you're going to need to hand something out and you need it back. So if you laminate them, you can reuse them. If you're using them at home while your students are still virtual, you can hold up a card and show them. Let's use one we haven't said yet. So this one says, I'm inspired by you. So the task for my student would be to take a piece of paper and a pen, and I would want them to write something that someone has said to them that was nice, right? Someone had paid them a compliment and it had nothing to do with how they looked or their appearance. So again, we're reinforcing this social emotional learning and understanding with our kids about what is important and what do we recognize about building self-confidence and making others feel good about themselves. And so then you have each of the students with their positive saying or whatever they have written down, and you can put on some music. Everybody is dancing and moving around the room. When the music stops, you call on one of your students to hold up their positive message that they have written and read it out loud to the rest of the group. So by the end, while you're doing that, if you have a class of 25 kids, 30 kids, everybody has said something really positive and you've had this amazing dance party for 5 minutes, right? You can also, if you need to do it on a time frame that's more brief, you can potentially limit like how many you've said or call on so many each class, and or have it as an assignment. If you're concerned that in the moment some kids may not be sure what to write, you can assign it as a task to do and tell them next class they'll be sharing their positive message with the rest of the group. So just a few different ideas of how you can use Empower cards, Empower dance, Empower message, and so forth like that. Different ways for you to do it. Another interesting way to use either is if you have a number of sets of the Empower cards, if you have more than one set, you can use them to group students together. One has to find the other that says the same positive message. You can use the Power Deck cards in really interesting ways to do groupings. And again, going back to the lessons on open, as Laurie mentioned. In active classrooms, there's some really interesting ways that they've used playing cards, and you can use your playing cards, your Power Deck cards, rather, like playing cards. One of my favorite ways to sort is to use these and have everybody pick up a card, but not show you the card. Instead, what I have to do is I have to act like the animal. So on each of the Power Deck cards, there's a unique animal for the color. So the purple are bunny rabbits. The red are kitty cats. The yellow are giraffes. And so the students would act like that particular animal to put themselves into a group. The other way you can do it is as a heads up, where everybody puts their card up and you're trying to sort yourselves without talking. That one's really fun as well. The other that I like to do is called Lucky 11. And so each set of 1 through 10 has a matching number that equals 11. For example, if I have the number 1, I'm looking for the number 10 because that equals 11. If I have a 2, I find the 9. If I have a 5, I find the 6, so forth, so that everybody has someone they match. Don't have to necessarily match color, but they do need to match to a number. You can do it where they do match the color also. If you do that, the nice thing is it's a set of 60 numbers. In addition to the 60 numbers, you have 6 wild cards that are called power cards. And so those give you the option to perhaps give to a student who's a little more reluctant, helping them to find a partner a little bit quicker. And also it gives them a free choice. Some of our kiddos sometimes need that ability to find who they need to find through some sort of an open option like that. So that's what I like about the power cards. During this past several months, every evening, my family has been using the Power Deck cards to play Crazy Eights. And so I highly recommend them for a home game if any of you are looking for it, because we have really had a lot of fun and we've created new rules around some of the ways we play it as well. So lots of different ways to work on grouping and so forth like that. So I'm going to wrap my part up by saying thank you and giving you a few resources on the slides. Everything from my website where you can purchase any of these cards that you've seen, my Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I also included my email. I'm happy to provide any sort of resources that you may need and you might need to find. So thank you for that. And Miss Laurie.
Yes, and here's my resources and my contact information. I have a YouTube channel, ABCs of Movement with Laurie, and in my YouTube channel, I show a lot of different ways to use the ABCs of Movement cards, and I also have a cameo from my potbelly pig, Petunia, that everyone seems to like her way more than they like me, but that's okay. You can find the ABCs of Movement cards on my website, abcsofmovement.com, and they're also available in the US Games catalog, if you're wondering where you can find them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.